It's a witch's totem. We think your family was cursed.
The court accepts the existence of God every time a witness swears to tell the truth. I think it's about time they accept the existence of the devil.
Jesus. I think I hurt someone.
In 1981, Arne Johnson pled not guilty by reason of demonic possession.
I am not going before a grand jury and saying he was possessed by demons.
Today we are going to talk about the Arne Johnson trial, and to put it simply, it is a case. By all accounts, this is one of the most extraordinary and thought-provoking court cases in American history, and is actually the first case of a criminal in the United States in which a confession was made based on the belief that he was possessed by demons. On this channel, we rarely explain paranormal cases. However, the trial for this case is actually taken seriously. And the story is so crazy that it which had focused for the Conjuring 3, one of the most anticipated horror movies of 2021. Let's move on, shall we? The Glatzels are, for the most part, your typical American family. The kind of family you'd expect from the house next door. Judy Glatzel, the mother of a young family, had a normal life while raising her many children, including Debbie and David Glatzel. In 1980, looking for a change, they decided to move house and found a good house for sale in Connecticut. As they cleaned the house and prepared to move, David, the youngest of the family, forces her to move around the house and get to know the house before moving. While moving home, David said that he met the spirit of an old man who did not agree with a family moving. David said that the spirit became fearful of him and pushed him away, reminding him that if the family moved, bad things would start happening. David, a young and naive boy, took this reminder to heart and ran straight to tell the parents, asking them to get out of their sales contract and move somewhere else. However, as you can imagine, the parents cut it off completely and moved on. At this point, you might be thinking that this all sounds like a young baby who doesn't want to move into a new house. One after moving to a new house, it wasn't long before David's health declined rapidly. However, his parents refused to admit that the strange behavior he knew could lead to a demonic sale. His family said in the weeks after moving into the house, David would continue to talk about the old man's ghost, and his parents saw him chatting with the old man in several places. At that time, his parents began to question if there was any truth to their son's silly stories when they saw David start speaking in a strange voice and even started speaking in Latin at one point. It wasn't long before David's condition began to change in a real way, and he began to suffer from illness. He would also appear with a strange illness that no one in his family could explain. We talk about building suddenly with sickness and stir. After having a horrible night, dream from the words of the beastman. In addition, his communication skills began to decrease rapidly, and he began to speak to his family through emptiness and emptiness, mentioning special biblical words and even speaking with words from John Milton's book, Paradise Lost, with all their meaning. These were words that young David should not have been aware of. In a certain way, he has memorized some of these words, and will mention them in the near future during normal discussions. At this time, David's family began to take his claims more seriously, and they also believed that their son had really taken a spirit from another realm and had become influenced by evil. His mother, Judy, described David's paranormal illness as a man with large black eyes, a small face with animal features, and an evil mouth, ears with horns and hooks. David's family turned to the Catholic Kingdom for help. They asked their local government to perform an exorcism on the little man, but no government leader in the area would prescribe such a thing. Therefore, exorcisms have not been performed for decades. At this time, and certainly have never been performed on children. The government insisted that David's family seek help from someone else and ended all discussions at that time. With nowhere else to turn, the government insisted on turning their attention to the couple, who knew demons better than anyone else in the world. Ed and Lorraine Warren. You may recognize Ed and Lorraine as paranormal investigators in both the Conjuring movies. However, they are very real people and they take the government's requests very seriously. When the insistent government finally arrived at the family home, they knew firsthand that David was truly under the influence. However, Ed Warren makes it clear that the family was never considered. When examining David, he showed that the boy was not under the influence of a single demon. Instead, he saw the boy was being influenced by more than 40 individual souls, each of them fighting to gain control over the young boy's body. This shows the government insisted in Warren that David really needed exorcism. Warren manages to connect a local government and convince the leader that this little boy is in dire need of help. We don't know what Warren might have said to the government leaders to believe them about this very strange incident. However, Warren did everything in their power to help the little boy, and in the end, at least 3 different exorcisms were done on David. Nothing worked until the last exorcism that finally helped release the demon from David's body once and for all. However, all is not as it seems. Now, we need to turn our attention from David to a man named Arne Johnson. Arne has been dating David's sister Debbie for some time. We don't know too much about the details of Debbie and Arne's relationship, but Arne was actually asked by the family to move in and help reassure David at night because of his dreams. He moved in May 1980 and became comfortable with their family and friends. We know that Arne feels guilty for him and wants to do, but it seems as if nothing is working. That is, until the final exorcism that will see David's soul blessed in the end. At the third and final exorcism, Arne became upset that David was still suffering.
Just leave him alone, okay? Leave him alone and take me.
In a last-ditch effort to save the little man from his demons, he tells the demons and the rest of the spirit realm that and offered that if the spirits needed a body to call their home, they can take his body. Arne was only hurt. Even after warning Arne not to deceive the demon, he had done so. Ed mentioned in an interview that it was one of those things that should never done. Arne and Debbie finally moved into their own house. However, Arne began to suffer from many of the same symptoms that David had been dealing with for several months. We don't know the specifics of everything that Arne went through. However, Debbie spoke in an interview and said she would have anxiety. He would scream and say that he saw a ghost. Then, he won't remember it. Just like David, Ed and Lorraine immediately blame Arne for this since he had communicated with a demon during an exorcism. It is only time they are certain. Just 4 months before Arne was finally arrested, Lorraine Warren had told police that she felt a dark energy surrounding the family and that she feared for the safety of anyone who might be close to them. Lorraine spoke to the police at least once about the family and told them that they were very dangerous and that the officers should take care of themselves. However, Lorraine's notification was not enough to prevent what was about to happen. Now, I know what you're thinking. Does all this have anything to do with anything? How does this lead to rescues, arrests, even crimes? Well, The answer to those questions came from February 16th. A day that would change the lives of the Glatzel family forever. Debbie Glatzel has been working for a local dog handler and is scheduled to work on February 16th. Arne has also been arranged for his own work. However, she had called so he could follow Debbie to her job. We don't know why the rest of the family decided to come too. However, Debbie's siblings decided to follow her to work as well. As the end of the day rolls around, the boss, Alan Bono, offers to buy everyone lunch and hang out while the customers are away for lunch. At this time, Alan began to drink heavily. It didn't take long for him to be intoxicated, and his face began to change when he was around Debbie's cousin, Mary, who was only 9 years old. Debbie becomes concerned about her boss's behavior and decides to quit work early because she fears for the family's safety. However, as the group begins to walk out, Alan grabs hold of young Mary and won't let her go. This causes Arne to be angry. Debbie says that his demonic tendencies are starting to change and he's starting an attack on Alan. Before Alan had a chance to act, Arne attacked him and stabbed him 5 times with a knife. Alan loses his life after a few hours. After doing the heinous act, Arne is said to have immediately walked into the nearby forest in distress. When he finally found wisdom and returned home, he shared that he had no memory of how he ended up in the forest that day. Even years later, Arne says he has no memory of the killer or the events of that day. Needless to say, when Arne returned from the forest, he was arrested and sent directly to the investigators as Alan Bono's killer. He doesn't help the officers much because it seems as if he has no memory of taking Alan's life. Judy Glatzel speaks later to the Washington Post about how her son suddenly found himself in a homicide investigator.
Residents of Brookfield were shocked this afternoon by the broad daylight murder of Bruno Sauls,
who said that his son was not the only one who lost the battle. He said this world is controlled by demons. Arne's trial began on October 28, 1981. Arne's defense team scrambled to find a better option. Instead of accepting the blame, they decided Arne acted in self-defense. They knew these words probably wouldn't hold up in court, but it was the only option to keep Arne out of jail because Arne's words about demonic possession were rejected. Jurists are not allowed to include the idea of demonic possession in their decision.
That what occurred to this young boy and Arne Johnson was indeed diabolical possession, but I can understand the judge's feelings too. He didn't want to be known as the judge who allowed the devil made me do it case into his courtroom.
Right. Okay, I guess this is an article that talks about
The devil made him do it. And the devil did make him do it.
Oh yeah, we were.
Arne Johnson was under diabolical possession. He didn't know what happened for at least 2 hours. In that 2 hours, he had killed Alan Bono.
The family, the parents, Judy and Carl Glatzel, this took a terrible toll on this family.
Now, is this one of the priests that was in the house?
That's the exorcist.
He was the exorcist.
Yes, he was, and he was very, very badly affected by this case.
However, he will be charged with first-degree murder. He was accused of serving 10 to 20 years in prison, but he was actually released after serving more than half his full sentence, becoming a free man again in just 5 years. Arne would be released from prison in 1986, and he went on to marry Debbie Glatzel almost immediately.